Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's Business Success Series presented by Manulife, Canada's Immigration Advantage. My name is Ian McLean, and I'm President and CEO of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. Before we get started, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we do live and work on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples, as we seek a renewed relationship based on a foundation of mutual understanding and respect. As participants in today's virtual event, we are coming together as one. We believe everyone is free to be their true self and receive the same respect and opportunity, regardless of age, ethnicity, gender, culture, identity, sexual orientation, beliefs, or language. We hope you will join us in fostering a positive environment here today that is a safe and welcoming space for all. We know there is more that we can do, and we are committed to listening, learning, and growing as we go. Today's session would not be possible without the continued support of our sponsors and partners, and so a special thank you to our title sponsor of the Business Success Series, our friends from Manulife, and our platinum sponsor for the series, the Immigration Partnership of Waterloo Region. These organizations are committed to supporting our local economy and providing businesses with the resources and tools they need to thrive. Just before the session starts, I'd like to go over a few quick reminders. Please ensure your microphone is muted throughout the presentation so we can reduce any background noise. If you have a tech-related question, please comment in the chat section and a representative of the Chamber team will get back to you right away. If you have a question, if a question arises for today's speaker, I'll gather those throughout the session and we'll do our best to respond to that with additional information following the presentation. All attendees will be sent a recording of today's presentation, and it will also be made available on the Greater KW Chamber website. I would like to now introduce today's guest, Melissa Grant. Melissa joined Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada in 1999 and currently works as an outreach officer in the GTA. In her current position, she helps Canadian employers learn how Canada's economic programs can be used to support hiring needs and help drive economic growth. So welcome, Melissa. Thanks so much for joining us today. As we were talking, we're still doing things virtually. We would like to be doing this in person, but thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule on such an important topic. And the Chamber is very involved with the Immigration Partnership of Waterloo Region here in Waterloo Region. For a number of reasons, and I think for our listeners, as some of them will know, the Chamber's been involved in connecting newcomers and refugees and immigrants to jobs, dating back, it's got to be almost 20 years now. With the previous was the Waterloo Region Immigrant Employment Network, and now as part of the Waterloo Region, our Immigration Partnership of Waterloo Region. And partly because our region does have a history of welcoming a lot of newcomers to Canada, and it's the right thing to do. But it's also there's a huge economic driver and imperative for business to be looking to how to fill their talent needs, and immigration is increasingly, with every passing day, an increasingly important part of solving that problem. So we want to dive into some detail today around the programs that are, largely fostered or administered with the federal government. I know there is a provincial role of that as well, but we want to focus on the programs that the federal government, and in particular your department, shepherd. So maybe let's start off by explaining how one can get a work permit to work in Canada. So I think that needs to be explained. Work permits for immigrants and refugees and newcomers and students. There's all kinds of different variations. So let's start off by explaining the how to get a work permit to work in Canada.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Ian, first for that wonderful introduction. And hello, everyone joining. Bonjour tout le monde. I just wanted to say it's a great pleasure to be here with you today and to chat about, like you said, Ian, these very important topics. Before I just even answer that question quickly, I just wanted to note that although today's discussion will be in English, anyone can request the presentation in French. So if needed, we will be able to provide a French copy of our discussion today. And all the resources that I will share after today's discussion will also be available in both official languages, English and French. Now, going right into your question about how one can get a work permit, I think to start, it's important to look at how we define work according to the regulations. So work is an activity that is for which wages are paid or commission is earned, or that competes directly with activities of Canadians or permanent residents in the labor market. So the last part is especially important because it means that unpaid work can also require a work permit. So now that we understand that, let's talk a little bit more about the actual work permits. So there are two different pathways to obtaining a work permit in Canada. There's the Temporary Foreign Worker Program and the International Mobility Program. The end result is the same, which is a work permit for the individual. The Temporary Foreign Worker Program, that can be considered a measure to fill temporary skills and labor shortages in Canada. That process is administered by Employment and Social Development Canada, also known as ESDC, and my department, IRCC, Immigration, Refugees, Citizenship Canada. Essentially, employers must first obtain a labor market impact assessment, an LMIA, from ESDC to hire foreign workers. Only once the LMIA is approved can the foreign worker apply to IRCC for their work permit. The second program, the International Mobility Program, is administered solely by IRCC. So this program supports talent attraction and economic growth. And unlike the Temporary Foreign Worker Program that I just described, it does not require employers to obtain an LMIA before hiring a foreign worker. So the reason why Canada has these LMIA exempt work permits is because there is some other benefit to Canada, be that social, cultural, or economic. And here, the employer provides details of the prospective employment to IRCC through an online system that is called the Employer Portal. And once the offer of employment is completed, the worker can then submit their work permit application. So that's really that in a nutshell.
So, and I think many of our employers that might be watching or will watch this online afterwards, some have gone through the process of the temporary worker's permit and the details associated with that. The International Mobility Program, are there specific jobs? And I guess I just want to understand that a little better. Are there specific jobs, or is it wide open for in at least going through to see whether you can get approval to bring to hire a newcomer for a job? Like, what's the difference between the temporary foreign worker? By its definition, is it's temporary and it's to fill an identified gap. What's the difference with the International Mobility Program?
So the International Mobility, so the Temporary Foreign Worker Program is a program that is a joint program with ESDC and IRCC. And the International Mobility Program is administered solely by IRCC. And that is where we have some exemptions to having to obtain a labor market opinion, a labor market impact assessment, sorry. Okay. So let's drill down maybe a couple of examples. I mean, and I used to work at WSIB, and so we had so many inaccurate, short forms for things. People get lost in it. But let's talk about the LMIA, the Labor Market Impact Assessment. Give us some examples of when that would be required. So I'm a employer. I'm looking to hire a certain person. And is it a function of job function? Is it explain what the circumstances and a couple of examples of how an employer would have to use that labor market impact assessment? Absolutely. So Francophone Mobility is the first that I will highlight. And this exemption facilitates the entry of skilled French-speaking foreign workers under the International Mobility Program, and strengthens and supports the bilingual and multicultural character of Canada. So employers can access LMIA exempt work permits for skilled foreign workers who are proficient in French and who are being offered a job outside of Quebec. Employers do not need to offer a French workplace to the worker. However, with that being said, of course, it can be good for employers to have bilingual employees who can offer services in both of Canada's official languages. But that is one. Another, Canadian employers can also hire skilled youth participating in the International Experience Canada. Canada has a youth mobility exchange agreements with approximately 35 different countries that help foreign youth aged 18 to 35 gain work experience in Canada. Participants can work in Canada on an open work permit or an employer-specific work permit. And IRCC also offers temporary entry provisions in Canada's free trade agreements. So Canada's free trade agreements with other countries contain reciprocal talent mobility provisions that allows employers to offer employment to foreign workers without requiring the LMIA. The agreements set out in detail the nationalities, professions, and the qualifications of business people who can be granted temporary entry. And those people include business visitors who are exempt from needing a work permit, and also temporary workers who need a work permit but are exempt from needing an LMIA, people such as intra-company transferees, professionals, and technicians, for example.
So when you talk about some of these exemptions are specifically coming out of free trade agreements. So potentially the North American Free Trade, or I refuse to call it the new name, but the North American Free Trade Agreement, the European Free Trade Agreement. There may be specific things in there that allow for this type of worker to transfer from their home country based on free trade agreements. And so that would be specific to the free trade agreement, I assume.
Correct, that is. And they have different requirements for each depending on the country, which is all set out in our website. Okay, so
I'm going to keep referring because I think we'll send all of this afterwards. Just you're going to have to sort of say, here's the program, how does it fit to me? And what are the steps you're going to need to do? And much of that is available, if not all of it will be available on your website. And folks like yourself or others will be, I assume, are there to help kind of walk through. One of the challenges, as you know, small businesses have is if it gets too complicated, they throw up their hands. So, here's a program, here's my business, what are the steps I need to do? I presume there's people to help walk or help answer questions and navigate, help businesses navigate through the system.
We do have, which it's really with the global skills strategy. So yes, there is, we do have the ability to work with employers on next steps and things in terms of how to scale up their businesses and meet their business needs if they are connected with a referral partner to our organization.
I just want to go back on that because I find that interesting. I wasn't aware of that. The one program that you referenced, the skilled French speaking, so you could hire someone that is proficient in French doesn't matter where they're from. If they're proficient in French for a job outside of Quebec. I think I heard you say the job doesn't need to be in French, but you need to have the immigrant or the newcomer be able to be proficient in French, and the job itself could be, you're coming to Waterloo, you're not as likely to be needing to speak French unless you happen to be in insurance industry or some industries that are paying Canadian, but you can be identifying talent that is French speaking, but the job itself is an English speaking job.
That is correct. So it's really to help facilitate the entry of skilled French speaking foreign workers under the IMP program. So, because in the end, it does strengthen and support the character of Canada. So that is correct that the position itself doesn't specifically have to be in, a French designated position. But the employee coming must be proficient in French. Yes.
Okay. Great information. I did not know that. I don't know a lot of things, but I didn't specifically know that. So that's good. Um, so let's talk a little bit about the global skills strategy. Canada has this global skills strategy, and it's one of the main reasons why Canada is a global competitor in attracting top talent to Canada, because we are competing globally. There's a talent shortage worldwide. It's not unique to here or North America, but Canada has always been a country of immigrants, and we are a global trading nation with a very small our own economy is relatively small and our population small. So we do rely and always have relied on immigration. Tell us a bit more about the global skills strategy and how business connects to that. Because the part of this is always about, we want our members, especially small and medium-sized business who may not have the capacity to understand that there are tools and programs available to help them with their talent shortage, utilizing various parts of immigration. So let's talk a little bit about global skills strategy.
Absolutely. So just to provide you with some context, the Global Skills Strategy is an initiative that was launched in June 2017. Mm-hmm. And that was as a part of the Government of Canada's Innovation and Skills Plan. So this strategy recognizes that by facilitating the entry of top global talent to Canada, innovative companies can find the skills and expertise they need to scale up and grow, invest in Canada, and create jobs for Canadians. So the strategy also recognizes that the talent needs to be brought in quickly and with predictability, as these are often factors in investment decisions, of course. So co-led, again, by IRCC and ESDC, this strategy has the explicit objective of facilitating employer access to highly skilled foreign workers, okay? And that's to succeed in the global marketplace. The Global Skills Strategy has 4 pillars to it. And I'll just go through those quickly with you. So the first 3 pillars of the strategy fall under the responsibility of IRCC. And the first pillar of GSS, I'll refer to it as GSS, the Global Skills Strategy, is fast work permit processing. So this allows eligible, highly skilled workers to benefit from priority processing service standard. The second pillar is work permit exemptions for short-term work. So this enables managers and professionals to work in Canada without a work permit for up to 30 days per year, and researchers for up to 120 days. It saves on administrative work and is particularly valuable to get talent in quickly, especially when launching new projects. And the third pillar is access to a dedicated service channel. And this gives companies that are making significant job-creating investments in Canada, who have been referred by one of our referral partners, access to the expert guidance of an account manager from within IRCC. And this account manager will offer the company strategic support and guidance in navigating immigration programs and processes. ESDC now is responsible for the fourth pillar of the GSS. And this pillar includes an expedited way to get a labor market impact assessment to hire foreign workers. So companies can use this program to fill in-demand skilled positions on the global talent occupation list. And that includes software engineers, web developers, and digital media designers. And if anyone is interested in learning more about the Global Skills Strategy, please connect with one of our referral partners across Canada. A full list of our referral partners are listed on our website as well.
So just to follow up on that, give us an idea of who the referral partners would be. I think I know who some of them are, but for our business audience or partners that are working with immigrants, who are the types of referral partners you're referring to?
So referring to Waterloo Chamber of Commerce as a referral partner, other chambers of commerce as well. Off the top of my head, I don't have all of the referral partners off the top of my head, but there are someone
like the chamber or if you're working with BDC as an example, which is an agency, and if you're working and they're saying, hey, look, we know you want to have a new business line and you need to do some research. And by the way, you're going to need that, and you identify a certain element of talent. It might be BDC that says, hey, go to the global skills strategy. It's anyone that is in the broader business community or community partners that are working with immigrants and or business that are saying there is program out here. So this doesn't have to come from a government, employee themselves. This is coming from business, the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, Canadian Chamber, a local Chamber of Commerce, a Board of Trade, a trade association, Canadian Manufacturers Export. Anyone that can identify a business that's in need might refer them through to the business or to the global skills strategy.
Absolutely. That is correct. Yes.
Okay. So, and the fourth pillar you talked about there in the global skills strategy, the expedited labor market impact assessment, specific to, I think you referred to it as high demand, or explain that again, because actually I want to know how restrictive it is in its present form. Because you could make an argument there's a whole lot more at a high demand with very, very few applicants coming right across the board, and it's no longer computer engineers or software engineers. It may be broader than that. Does that allow a business to go and say, I need this and I can't find it, or is it a set number of specific jobs that I think that's ESDC has mandated. Is it specific, or is it broad enough that you go and you make the case for the type of person you're looking for that you can't find?
Well, unfortunately, I won't be able to speak to this particulars of this program because it is managed by ESDC. However, I would suggest, and I will provide at the end in the resources, the link to the ESDC. Okay. And definitely, if anyone has that question, or even yourself, feel free to ask that department about that. I just don't want to give any information that doesn't particularly fall under.
But that would be helpful to get that, because I think what we're finding is it's gone beyond. And I remember when the labor market, in 2017, when the temporary foreign workers and some of these programs were put in place, it was pretty specific to engineers and software and tech. It's broadened out that there are a lot of talent gaps across the country. So that would be very useful for people to identify what is allowed, what's not, or how to ask the question to see whether it needs to be expanded. Okay. We have a general understanding of how the work permit works now. We understand there's a strategy in place in Canada to help the employers hire talent to bring to Canada and more easily. So I guess the question for some employers would be, and certainly we try and be a resource, the Immigration Partnership tries to be, but how can an employer actually find a foreign worker? Like if you're a small or medium-sized business and have 20 or 30 employees, it's a good sized operation, but you're not likely to have an HR person who specializes in finding foreign workers. So what are the tips for employers to actually find the foreign workers, or the someone from outside of Canada to fill your job?
Sure. So there's various ways to find foreign workers. So for example, I'll ask you, did you know that many international students are eligible to work off campus and with a work permit while they study? So while classes in session, students can work up to 20 hours a week and even full-time hours during scheduled breaks. To qualify, students must have a valid study permit, have begun their studies in an eligible program. They also must be studying full-time at an eligible post-secondary institution, and they must have a social insurance number. So after graduation, some international students in Canada may also be eligible for an open work permit known as a post-graduation work permit. And that allows them to work for any employer and in any job. If the graduate has applied for their post-graduation work permit before their study permit expires, they're often able to even start working right away, even while their work permit application is being processed. So with this in mind, universities, colleges, technical institutes are great places to look for international talent. Also, to connect with international candidates abroad, there are forums and conferences such as Destination Canada. Destination Canada is a series of annual career fairs organized by the Government of Canada in Paris and Brussels. And I will definitely provide the website again in the resources after our chat with more detailed information regarding Destination Canada, registration details that you may provide to your network. We also encourage those interested in working in Canada to use Job Bank. So that's Canada's national employment service to find a job. Job Bank is great because there's a job matching component on the website where employers can be referred to applicants' profiles if they fit the requirement needs for the job. So it's a great matching system there as well. So those are some ways that you can find some foreign talent.
Well, and I'm not sure you may be aware, but we've been running through Business Higher Education Roundtable for this region, the Access Student Talent Program, which is to connect small and medium-sized business with students to give them experiential learning opportunities. And I hadn't quite thought of it in that context as some of those students will be foreign students because we have a lot of them at U of W and Conestoga in particular, but also Laurier. That almost can be a pipeline for finding full-time employees by hiring a student while they're studying for 2 or 3 years, even that you've got someone ready once their studies are done, and you can go through the process of transitioning from, I think it was from the initial stage, and then getting your whatever the more permanent permit. That can be a great pipeline to warm up employees for your company. I hadn't thought of it in that context, but I think more and more even employers are going to have to solve some of their talent programs by using part-time, because they're not going to be able to find necessarily full-time. Foreign students is a great option for that. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, lots to get to here, so I want to keep plowing ahead. So let's imagine, I mean, for those listening, that'll be a small business. Again, there are many ways, probably like we as a chamber, we are doing a lot of different things. And so patience is not high on our skills list a lot of times. So they want to know the nuts and bolts of how this works. So what I'm looking for is what happens when an employer is able to hire a foreign worker. So it's temporary in nature by its in the programs you've talked about. Is there a difference, because you talked about students transitioning to be permanent, if you will, like getting their permanent residency status or their permanent permit? How can an employer retain the worker longer than the temporary portion of the program? I mean, is there things they should be doing while they've got the temporary, as an example, temporary foreign workers? Is there something they should be doing if they say, hey, I'd really like to keep Melissa, she's really awesome, but she's going to have to go home or stop working in 6 months? What is the things that I would do to say, I want to keep Melissa? Are there things that you can be doing concurrently from that short-term job?
For sure. So I'll start by talking about permanent residence to provide you with an idea of how the employers can retain temporary foreign workers through pathways to permanent residence. So Canada has a range of economic immigration programs, which all contribute towards strengthening Canada's labor market and economy. Some programs are designed to address regional or industry-specific labor market needs, like the Atlantic Immigration Program or the Agri-Food Immigration Pilot. Other programs such as the Federal Skilled Worker, the Federal Skilled Trades, and the Canadian Experience Class are accessed through what's called express entry. So let's take a look at what express entry actually is. So to start, It's important to understand that Express Entry is an online portal. Okay, it manages key economic immigration programs, including the skilled worker and the federal skilled trades program and the Canadian experience class, and also a part of the provincial nominee program. It's changed the way high skilled workers apply for immigration in Canada for sure. So generally, the process is straightforward. Candidates submit an online profile, and if they are found eligible for one of the economic immigration programs in Express Entry, they're placed in a pool of candidates who may be eligible to immigrate to Canada. Candidates are then given points based on IRCC's Comprehensive Ranking System score, also known as the CRS score, Comprehensive Ranking System. And that is based on the information in their profile, including their skills and experience. They're then ranked against other candidates in the Express Entry pool. And the top ranked candidates are then invited to apply for permanent residence and benefit also from faster processing. So employers, they can support the skilled foreign workers to apply for permanent residence through Express Entry by providing candidates with a valid job offer. Okay, so what is a valid job offer, right? So generally, it's a commitment from the employer to hire the candidate for at least 1 year once the candidate has been granted permanent residence. Also, valid job offers must be non-seasonal at the National Occupational Code skill level of 0, A, or B, and they need to be supported by a labor market impact assessment unless one, of course, is not needed. And before I move on, I'd just like to share some news about the Express Entry. Like all businesses and organizations, IRCC's capacity to process applications, including those managed under Express Entry, was impacted by the pandemic and travel restrictions throughout 2020 and 2021, unfortunately. And to manage the growing inventories, IRCC temporarily paused sending out these invitations for Express Entry to apply under the high skilled worker streams. And that was paused in September 2021. However, we anticipate the process will resume in the coming months. So that's good news.
Editorial comment, that sounds, there is a process there. It's probably a good idea to start early once you've got a foreign worker in place, because that doesn't lend itself to being a quick process. It means you have to a lot of steps along the way, worthwhile doing, but staying in touch with whether it's yourself at IRCC or the professionals around what the steps are and what the hurdles and the junction points are would be pretty important as you go through, because it's not something you can do in a short period of time. There are a number of steps along the way. Is that a fair way of looking at it from an employer's perspective if they want to keep them permanently?
Well, the applicant first has to be eligible for one of the programs, right? And there's a way for the worker to go online and see if they are eligible for one of the programs. And the best time, of course, to apply for one of these programs for under Express Entry is when the applicant is eligible, right? But yes, yeah, they should remain in status and so forth. Yes, and the employer and the employee should keep connections for sure.
Okay, so back to labor market impact assessment, and you just referenced that you would need to do that as you're trying to have a temporary foreign worker move to permanent. And I think one of your comments was unless a labor market impact assessment is not needed. So let's, in that happy circumstance for that particular job, what are some of the examples where an LMIA, labor market impact assessment, would not be needed?
So that would be a valid job offer from an employer does not require an LMIA if the worker holds a work permit that is exempt already from an LMIA under a free trade agreement, provincial or territorial nominee program, or in a Canadian interest category, such as the Francophone Mobility, or the employee has been working full-time for an employer specified on their work permit for at least 1 year.
Okay, so we're back to something else is in place, like the provincial nominee, where there's a certain amount where the province can say we want this type of person or individual, or free trade agreement, and then back to again a French speaker, a proficient French speaker, regardless of the job, if they've got that piece in place but they've got a valid job offer, then the labor market impact. So you still have to verify the French speaking part. You can't just say, I mean, I could say I speak French and I really don't. But that's the part that where there's documentation required, or the proficiency, but not the labor market impact assessment would not be required once you have that language issue dealt with.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm sure there's circumstance. What happens if an individual is not eligible for that express entry? Because there would be situations where that would be the case. Are there any alternatives to that express entry program that you've referred to?
So if an individual isn't eligible for express entry, there are some alternatives. For instance, I mean, they can gain more work experience through one of our main temporary residence programs, such as that temporary foreign worker program and the international mobility program. If they're interested in living in a very specific areas of Canada, the Atlantic immigration program or the rural and northern immigration pilot might be a right fit for them. As well, the provinces and territories all have nomination programs, and an individual can seek to be nominated by a province or territory. So I do want to highlight that nomination programs are administered by the provinces and the territories. So a person nominated by the province or territory still would need to apply for permanent residence through IRCC. But these are some of the ways that, you know, they can use the alternatives if they're not eligible.
And every province is different in how they administer their own provincial nominee process. So presumably either go to a local MPP if you're the business owner to try and help them or their staff or the bureaucrats to navigate that program. But I think the answer that I hear you saying is that there are some options other than express entry. Once you hit a no in express entry, doesn't mean the answer is a final no. It means there's no in that program, and that you should be looking for some of these other options that you mentioned.
Absolutely. And also sometimes people are applying a little too early. For example, like I was saying, they can gain more experience through one of the programs if they meet the temporary foreign worker or the international mobility program. Yes. Okay.
And I can't believe that someday there'll be a time when I do one of these sessions where we don't ask about COVID, but today is not that day. So let's talk about COVID-19. Specifically because, as you know, this has been a challenge for everyone. Certainly in government, you've identified immigration basically, for all intents and purposes, dried up for a couple of years as a part of the globally, but certainly in Canada as well. So it's been a challenge for employers coming through COVID. Tell us about any of the key measures or special measures that have been put in place to support workers and employers during the pandemic, because this has been, it's impacted, and we're hoping we're to the end of this and we're coming out of this, but we're still doing this virtually, and there's still lots of COVID out. Certainly Canada is probably better than most, but around the world, it's still a global issue. So talk about, maybe some of those support programs or measures that have been put in place to kind of support the process that has been so impacted by COVID.
Absolutely. So one of the special measures is the public policy on exemptions to work permit conditions when changing employment. So this facilitative measure allows temporary workers in Canada to start working while their new employer-specific work permit application is in process. So to be eligible, the temporary resident needs to already have authorization to work in Canada, and their new application is for to change an occupation or an employer. Okay. Another relevant special measure that has been issued is the public policy exempting certain visitors in Canada from immigration requirements. So essentially, this allows eligible foreign nationals who have valid status as visitors and who are physically present in Canada to apply for a job offer supported work permit from within Canada.
So say that again. So if you happen to be here and you are offered a job, there's a special because of the pandemic. There's a stream that would say you can apply for the work permit because you've already got a job offer because you happen to because you're legally in the country. I mean, that would be unusual. That's one of those special measures that has arisen because of COVID. Either people being stuck here or getting here and again facing or being part of the solution for the job shortages that employers are feeling. Have I got that right? That's
yes.
Okay, perfect. Now thinking, I mean, it's amazing how global issues far outside our boundaries and borders impact us, but we see the horrific war being waged in Ukraine, and there are literally, I think it's 6 or 7 million refugees from Ukraine alone that are between Poland and the EU. And I know we've already seen some here. There was just on a Rotary Club call or a meeting this week, and I know Rotaries and others are welcoming Ukrainian refugees or temporarily here, and I know there's businesses that have connections to Ukraine that are trying to make their jobs that are available here available to Ukrainian refugees in Canada. So I guess it's a long way of saying it's a big issue. It's one that is important to the Ukrainian expatriate community here in Canada, and there's certainly some here in Waterloo region, but certainly across the country. And businesses want to be part of the solution, which is we have jobs available. We've got refugees who have skills. Are there special measures that have been put in place to allow for this circumstance, much like in the way there was for Syrian refugees a number of years ago? Talk about what may be put in place or coming to support the supporting of Ukrainian refugees as a result of the war, Russian war in Ukraine.
Yes, for sure. So Canada is totally committed in our support for those affected by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We put measures in place to help Canadian citizens and permanent residents return home and to help Ukrainians come to and stay in Canada. So we've also created the Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Travel. And that's also known as CUAT, C-U-A-E-T. And that is to help Ukrainians and their family members come to Canada as quickly as possible and to provide them with the ability to work and study while in Canada. So the Kuwait also gives those who are already in Canada the option to extend their visitor status, work permit, or study permit so that they can continue to live and work or study in Canada temporarily. So we have much details on that on our website. So if you know of anyone who may need this information, please make sure to direct them to our website for more information on that, including instructions on how to even submit applications.
Okay, and I guess a follow on to that, if there's employers, and because not all of them are known to us at the chamber or in the broader business community, but I know there are lots interested, and it seems to be growing with every passing day. If there are employers that are interested in hiring Ukrainian nationals, is there a specific contact or resource? Like, is there a special portal? I know at one point there was for Syrian refugees, you went to one place and all of the resources were there from government programs to housing to support agencies. Is there something like that related to Ukrainian nationals who are authorized to work in Canada? Like if you're authorized to, where I guess for both purposes, both the Ukrainian themselves, but also employers can go and say, hey, I have a job. Maybe it fits for one of those eligible jobs that they may be have access to.
Yes, absolutely. So there is a specific section of the job bank to help employers find Ukrainian nationals looking for work in Canada. So employers who wish to support Ukrainians with offers of employment can register these job offers on the Job Bank's Jobs for Ukrainian webpage. So the job bank will then work with local organizations and employers to help connect them with Ukrainians seeking work in their communities. So I'll provide you with that website as well in the resources, and you may share it with your network again. Absolutely. There is that put in place.
Okay, we're almost out of time. I want to thank you for taking your time. So I always ask this because we want to have, this is a bit of an infomercial for Melissa Grant and the Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada. Any last tips or information that you want to share with our audience today, or those that are going to watch in the coming days, to sort of wrap things up from our discussion today?
Yes, of course. So really, if employers and stakeholders want to find out more about any of the topics that I mentioned today, there's a network of outreach officers just like me, strategically located across Canada, who are here to help employers and other stakeholders. So I'll make sure just to share our contact information so that it can be shared with your stakeholders and any employers that you know who may wish to learn more about economic immigration. Again, our website, www.canada.ca/immigration contains a wealth of information and all application guides and forms. You can also follow us on social media or sign up for our newsletter to receive program updates as well. Also, on the website is something very, very useful called the Employer's Landing Page. And that is designed to walk you through the whole process of sourcing, hiring, onboarding, and retaining internationally trained workers. It's full of helpful tips. And again, I will make sure to share that in the resources so you can share that outward again. So that's basically it. And again, everything will be shared in both official languages, English and French.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa, for taking time out of your busy schedule and joining us today. Do appreciate that you'll get those resources to us in both official languages, and we will make that available not only to our listeners today, but those that will be joining in the coming days on the recording. But we'll also make it available for our partners here in Waterloo Region as well. At the chambers and economic development and Communitech and others, just to make sure we can distribute it to our stakeholders and our members of chambers as well. So thanks so much for joining us today. That does bring us to the end of today's session. Thanks once again to our title sponsor for the Business Success Series, Manulife, our platinum sponsor of the series, the Immigration Partnership of Waterloo Region. And finally, to all of you for joining us today. As a reminder, we do host a new Business Success Series session every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Join us next week as we discuss emerging trends that come from that are coming through the pandemic. PMG Intelligence, Rob Grind, is going to join us for an insightful conversation on the emerging trends through COVID and how businesses are managing. So Rob and his colleague Andrea Hostfield will share what they are hearing and seeing and how businesses are planning today and into the future. And they have quite a large lens to look at this across sectors and across Ontario locally as well. So it should be a fascinating discussion. To register to find out more about other upcoming events, please register and visit us at greaterkwchamber.com. And please do share this series with your friends and colleagues. Join us every Wednesday for another edition of the Business Success Series, because if it's Wednesday, it is the Business Success Series. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a great afternoon.